Welcome back to Singh Tries. Today, we're talking about my one true love. And before my husband watches this and gets offended, he already knows where he ranks. It's tomatoes. It's always been tomatoes. Honestly, tomatoes are the whole reason I got into gardening in the first place. Sure, flowers are nice, pollinators are important, and fresh vegetables are great. But have you ever had a summer tomato sandwich? King of sandwiches? No debate. Tomatoes become salsa, pasta sauce, bruschetta, soup, pizza sauce, ketchup, and the reason half my grocery bill disappears every summer. So naturally, I looked at a packet of seeds and thought, how hard could it be? Past me was very confident. Current me has spent months worrying about the grow lights, fertilizer, watering schedules, hardening off, weather, leaf damage, and whether that blossom looks normal or it's plotting something. Because around here, we plant, we panic, we eat tomatoes at every meal. Today, I'm going to show you all the tomato varieties I'm growing this year. We'll look at the seed packets they came from, how many plants I've got of each, what I think of the varieties I've grown before, and what I'm expecting from the new ones. And stick around until the end, because there's one mystery tomato in the garden that I genuinely have no idea what it is. Most of them are just starting to blossom, which means we're getting close to the good part, the tomato part. Let's go meet the family. Actually, before we get too far into this tour, I kind of have to admit something. I usually don't get excited about red tomatoes. I know, that's a controversial thing to say as someone whose entire personality is currently tomatoes. It's not that I dislike them, it's just, well, they're the vanilla ice cream of the tomato world. Reliable, absolutely. Delicious, sure. But when there are purple tomatoes, striped tomatoes, green and when ripe tomatoes, and tomatoes that look like they were designed by a toddler with a box of crayons, well, it's hard to get excited about the plain red one. And yet, while filming this episode, I realized I apparently grew a lot of red tomatoes. Like a suspicious number of red tomatoes. Somewhere between ordering seeds and planting seedlings, I became the very thing I swore to destroy. The good news is that I'm already planning next year's garden, which is probably a sign that I have a problem. I've been looking at some of Wild Boar Farms varieties, and they have some absolutely ridiculously looking tomatoes. Stripes, colors, patterns, tomatoes that look like they belong in an art gallery instead of a sandwich. So, this may be the last year for some of these plain red varieties, unless they completely blow me out of the water. Because at the end of the day, I don't care what color a tomato is, as long as it tastes amazing. I mean, I still prefer it to look weird, but taste comes first. Well, let's start with the Ponderosa Pink. Pink isn't red. Well, it's a value of red, but for the sake of argument, that doesn't count as a red one. I'm really excited about this because I've not grown it before. I'm expecting sweet and huge and something near a Brandywine with lots of umami. It's definitely a slicer from the picture on the seed packet, and very meaty, which is what I like. But other than that, I haven't looked it up. We'll find out this year because I got a bunch of plants going. And this one has a fasciated blossom. It's like a Siamese twin of blossoms. It's more than one blossom fused together. So in theory, the fruit that bears from it will be like multiple tomatoes fixed together. It'll have an ugly butt with pollinator scars, but the thought of making a tomato sandwich with just one slice sounds epic, and I'm here for it. Up next is the mortgage lifter tomato. A tomato apparently so good it helps someone pay off their mortgage. I'm hoping it can at least help me with my grocery bills. Actually, I've grown this one before, and I'm always disappointed. With a name like Mortgage Lifter, I thought these would be humongous and prolific. They're not, but I just keep thinking that it's an me, not an issue. It's been very underwhelming, but this is Singh Tries and not Singh Gives Up, so we're giving it another go. I think it'll be great, even though it's still a plain red tomato. It already has some blossoms forming. This is Brandywine, the tomato responsible for all of this. Before Brandywine, I liked tomatoes. After Brandywine, I started planning my whole summers around tomatoes. One bite, and suddenly I understood why people have strong opinions about tomato varieties. So many people have stories like this. If you're starting out, just know this isn't a tomato. This is a life-changing event. It's big, it's dark but faded in color, delicious, and will completely ruin grocery store tomatoes for you. Because of the Brandywine tomato, I try not to buy tomatoes at all in the winter. If tomatoes are my true love, well, Brandywine is the one that swept me off my feet. This tomato started the obsession. And now we come to the star of the show, Pineapple Noir. This tomato is the entire reason some of the other tomatoes are here. I was minding my own business when the algorithm decided I needed to see a video about the Pineapple Noir. 5 minutes later, I was ordering seeds. This one actually got a late start. Most of my tomatoes were started in early February, but Pineapple Noir didn't get planted until the end of March. And yet somehow I still have the highest expectations for it. Completely fair, totally rational. If you've never seen one, it's supposed to be kind of yellow and orange on the outside, and when you cut it open, it has these gorgeous red streaks running through it, according to the videos. Basically, it's the kind of tomato that makes other tomatoes feel inadequate, which is why I planted 6 of them. I've never tasted one before. I've never even seen one in real life, so everything from this point is pure speculation. I'm hoping it's sweet, low acid, and has a little more substance to the skin than some of the yellow tomatoes, without venturing into the grocery store red tomato territory. Do I know if pineapple is actually part of the flavor profile? No. Am I going to convince myself I taste pineapple the second I take a bite? Absolutely. This tomato has been built up in my head for months, so no pressure, Pineapple Noir. Just be the best tomato I've ever eaten. This is the Fiorentino Pomodoro. Now, I haven't grown this one before, but look at the name and its shape. Fiorentino Pomodoro. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, and I'm pretty sure pomodoro means tomato in Italian, but I feel like it's part of its name. It sounds less like a tomato and more like someone who owns a villa in Tuscany. I have absolutely no idea if this tomato is going to be amazing. But with a name like that, my expectations are unreasonably high. I'm expecting rich flavor, beautifully but drier fruit, maybe some air pockets between the seeds and gel and meat, and an experience that makes me briefly consider moving to Italy. What I'll probably get is a tomato, but hopefully a really good tomato. We'll find out together. Next up is the lemon giant. Or at least that's what Google Translate tells me. I can't exactly read anything on the seed packet. So, for all I know, this could be a tomato, a cucumber, or instructions for assembling a bookshelf. What I do know is that these plants are tiny. Like seriously, compared to some of the others, they look like they've missed a few meals. Now, a few years ago, my Brandywine plants died, and in their absence, a yellow tomato called Lemon Boy stepped up and became my favorite tomato of the season. It was sweet, low acid, had delicate skin, and was the kind of tomato that disappeared suspiciously quickly from the garden. So, when I saw a lemon giant, my brain immediately made a complete logical assumption. Lemon boy, lemon giant. Obviously, this is just lemon man. The larger, stronger, and more mature evolution. Do I have any evidence to support that theory? None whatsoever. But that's not going to stop me from expecting giant, sweet, low-acid yellow tomatoes that make me question my loyalty to Brandywine all over again. The plants may be small, but my expectations are not. This next one is Beefsteak Crimson, and I'll be honest, I know nothing about it. When I bought it, my brain saw crimson and thought, ooh, mysterious. It was only much later that I remembered crimson is just another word for red, so there's a real possibility that I've accidentally grown one of the most normal tomatoes in the garden. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Some of the best tomatoes are just big red tomatoes that know exactly what they're about. But because I know so little about this variety, my imagination has filled in the blanks. Maybe it'll be completely ordinary, or maybe it'll produce giant beefsteaks and massive clusters hanging from the plant like Christmas ornaments and forcing me to buy more bamboo stakes. At this point, I genuinely have no idea. This tomato is either going to blend in with the crowd or it's going to become the main character. And honestly, I respect that level of unpredictability. And now we arrive at the mystery tomato. This lonely plant is either a Cherokee purple or a purple prince. I was supposed to have both. Unfortunately, when it came to size up the seedlings from the seed snails, things got complicated. Roots got tangled, labels vanished, stems snapped, and mistakes were made. The sort of mistakes gardeners refer to as learning experiences, because crying about them often isn't productive. In the end, only one survived. The good news is that I'd be happy with either a Cherokee purple or a purple prince. The bad news is that I have absolutely no idea which one this is. Now, there's another possibility. I also have an unknown tomato from a mystery seed snail, and technically speaking, it could be one of them. I don't think it is. In fact, I'm pretty sure it isn't. Both the Cherokee purple and purple prince were sown late, and this mystery plant is currently the tallest tomato in the entire garden. So the evidence strongly suggests it's something else. But like Schrodinger's cat, until the fruit shows up, it is simultaneously a Cherokee purple, a purple prince, and probably neither. The odds aren't great, but for now, hope remains alive. So let's cross our fingers and wait for the tomatoes to reveal their true identities. Next up is San Marzano. And unlike some of the other tomatoes in this garden, I didn't buy this one because of its looks. It's kind of a boring looking tomato, but it has a very important job. Pizza. Because who doesn't love pizza? And if I had to choose one pizza for the rest of my life, it would be the margherita. Not loaded with toppings, not stuffed crust, just good dough, good cheese, fresh basil, and tomatoes that actually taste like tomatoes. One of my favorite ways to make the sauce is to take canned San Marzano tomatoes and crush them with my hands right over the dough. No cooking, no fancy recipe, just tomatoes, salt, and confidence. These seeds came from the Italian market, which immediately raised my expectations for them 300%. Usually, when I make sauce from the garden, I use whatever tomatoes I have canned, but I'm really curious to see what happens when I use a tomato that's actually meant for the job, but make it homegrown. Will it revolutionize pizza night? Probably not. Will I tell myself it does anyway? Almost certainly. I planted 7 of them, not because I'm sensible, but because pizza is life. Now let's talk about cherry tomatoes. And I'm just going to be honest with you, they're not my favorite. I know that's practically gardening blasphemy. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy eating them. A good bruschetta on a summer evening out on the deck is one of life's simple pleasures. But cherry tomatoes have a major flaw. They're too successful. You plant one cherry tomato and suddenly you're harvesting them by the bucketfuls every day, forever. I mean, you can't exactly peel them for canning without losing your sanity. Maybe I can make it work with the antique sieve or the mallet or the hand crank crusher. Future me can figure that out. What I will say is that cherry tomato makes phenomenal soup. The flavor is incredible. The skins, however, can politely leave. So let's start with sugar plum. Yes, it's red. Plain old fire engine red. But I'll forgive it because of the way it grows. There's just something satisfying about seeing a long row of tomatoes hanging parallel from a single stem. It looks organized, it looks efficient, professional, like the tomato equivalent of filing your taxes on time. And leaving them attached to the vine helps them keep longer, which is great because, as we've established, cherry tomatoes produce faster than rabbits. But the real reason I grow sugar plum is this. Now imagine a piece of avocado toast, add some salty Nabolsi cheese, and confit a handful of sugar plum cherry tomatoes until they're sweet and jammy, and suddenly all feels right with the world. The emails can wait, the weeds can wait, civilization can wait. But for a brief moment, it is just you and some really good tomatoes. Next up is chocolate cherry. Now, I need to be honest here because I've spent an embarrassing amount of time convincing myself I'd grown this one before. I haven't. What I have grown is a different dark cherry tomato that started out almost as black and then developed red striping as it ripened. Unfortunately, frost got to that plant before a proper harvest. A classic gardening tradition around here in Zone 3. So, while this isn't the same tomato, I'm hoping for something similar. Something dark, dramatic, and just different enough that people stop and ask, wait, is that supposed to look like that? Because if there's one thing I've learned, weird-looking tomatoes are often the best tomatoes. The one I tried had a rich and very tomatoey flavor. Not sweet like candy, not fruity, just intensely tomato, like it had strong opinions about being a tomato. And since this is a cherry tomato, I'm fully expecting it to be prolific, because apparently that's part of the job description. If this one tastes good and looks good, I'll be happy. If it produces hundreds of tomatoes while doing it, well, I guess that's a problem for future me. And finally, in the cherry column, we have yellow pear, a tomato so committed to honesty that it tells you exactly what it is right in the name. It's yellow, it's pear-shaped. No surprises here. I've grown this one before. It looks fantastic. The flavor? Meh. Let's just say it's more enthusiastic about appearance than substance. Every garden needs that one plant. Now, before the yellow pear fan club comes after me, I don't dislike it. I just find it a little tomato adjacent. But here's where it earns its place in the garden. Picture this: a silky yellow tomato garlic soup made from yellow pears, a rich red tomato basil soup made from the sugar plum or the chocolate cherry, then pour them in the bowl side by side. Instant fancy restaurant presentation. And Bob's your uncle. Or, more realistically, you've spent 6 hours processing tomatoes and now you're just showing off. And honestly, that's okay too. Plus, every bruschetta board needs a yellow tomato. Not because it's the best tasting, but because it looks good. Sometimes a tomato's job is to be delicious, and sometimes a tomato's job is to be decorative. Yellow pear knows its role, and I respect that. Well, in the final category, it's somewhere between the cherry tomato and a full-size slicer. We have the Sunrise Bumblebee. Now, let's be honest, I bought this one entirely for the looks. Just look at it. Red, orange, and yellow stripes all wrapped up in one tomato. It's the kind of tomato that looks like it should come with its own Instagram account. Will it be the best tasting tomato in the garden? Maybe. Will it be the most photogenic? Absolutely. And that's good enough for me. One thing I did differently this year is that I didn't group all the varieties together. Instead, I planted them interspersed throughout the garden, partly because I wanted every trip into the garden to feel like a treasure hunt. I want to turn a corner and think, ooh, I forgot about you. And partly because this is a new backyard to me. I have no idea which spots get the best sun, the best airflow, or the most protection from the wind. So this year is as much about learning the garden as it is about growing tomatoes. So as for the Sunrise Bumblebee, I expect it'll taste good, fresh, bright, tomatoey. But if I'm being honest, this one doesn't need to be the best tasting tomato in the garden. It just needs to look cool while hanging out with the others. And I think it's going to do that job exceptionally well. Now, before we wrap up, there's one more tomato that deserves a mention. The Early Girl. These two plants were actually a gift from my neighbor, which automatically makes them some of the most valuable tomatoes in the garden. Not because they're rare, not because they're fancy, but because good neighbors are harder to find than good tomatoes. She started these later than most of mine, so they're still a bit smaller than the others. But despite their late starts, they actually seem to be the healthiest plant in the entire garden. No drama, no mystery ailments, no questionable life choices, just steady, healthy growth. Honestly, they're making some of the other tomatoes look a little unprofessional. Early Girl is one of those classic, well-rounded tomato. Not too big, not too small, good fresh, good sliced, and good for canning. It's the tomato equivalent of someone who quietly shows up, does their job well, and never asks for recognition. So thank you to the neighbor for sharing these plants with me. And thank you to Early Girl for reminding me that sometimes the most dependable tomatoes don't need fancy stripes, exotic colors, or names that sound like Italian aristocrats. Sometimes they just need to grow tomatoes. And from the looks of these are going to do exactly that. And that's the tomato tour. We've got 14 varieties and 55 plants. If you've made it this far, thank you for sticking around and listening to me ramble about what is, quite honestly, my passion project. Most people have hobbies. I apparently have a tomato-based personality. Whether you're here for the gardening, the tomato obsession, or just to watch me make increasingly questionable decisions in the backyard, I appreciate you spending some time with me. Now all that's left to do is wait for the harvest and see how many of my expectations survive contact with reality. Until next time, keep planting, keep learning, and keep growing. And remember, we plant, we panic, we make tomato sandwiches. And when the tomatoes come in, I will be showing you the best way to make such a tomato sandwich. So stay tuned for that. And if it all goes downhill from here, well, at least next year's seed catalog is already bookmarked. See y'all.